Imagine waking up thousands of years ago, before clocks, before alarms, before modern medicine. You are an Egyptian doctor, walking along the Nile, not rushing, not seeking fame, only observing, listening, healing in silence. Every action, every word, every breath follows a rhythm older than any memory, and today, you will live it with him. Before the sun fully rises above the eastern desert, before the heat begins its slow and patient claim over the land, the world along the Nile is already awake in its own gentle way. Not awake with urgency, not awake with noise, but awake as stone warms under light, as water remembers its ancient path, as birds repeat the same movements they have practiced for thousands of years. In a modest house built of sun-dried mud brick, close enough to the river that its presence can be felt rather than seen, a man lies resting on a woven reed mat. His breathing is slow and even. He is neither young nor old. His hair, once dark, has begun to thin and pale, though it is kept closely cropped, as is customary. His name, spoken softly in this household, is Hori. Hori is a physician. In his time, there is no single word that fully captures what he is. He is known as a SWNW, a healer, a man trained not only in remedies but in observation, in ritual, and in tradition passed down through generations. He has learned from scrolls copied by careful hands, and from teachers whose own teachers are long gone. His work sits quietly at the meeting point of the body and the divine, of practical knowledge and ancient belief. As dawn approaches, Hori opens his eyes. There is no sudden movement. He does not rise quickly. He lies still for a moment, listening. Outside, the low sound of water moving against reeds drifts through the open doorway. Somewhere nearby, a donkey shifts its weight. The air is cool, but already carrying the promise of heat. Hori sits up slowly. His joints remind him of their age, not painfully, but insistently. He accepts this without frustration. The body, he knows, is a system of balances. When one thing stiffens, another compensates. When one part weakens, another endures. He washes his face and hands with water kept in a clay vessel overnight. The water is cool. He does this carefully, deliberately, as much a ritual as a necessity. Cleanliness is not merely practical, it is ordered, proper, in harmony with Ma'at, the principle of balance that governs the universe. He dresses simply. A linen kilt, clean and neatly folded. No jewelry, no unnecessary adornment. His profession requires calm and trust, not display. Before he steps outside, Hori pauses. He murmurs a short prayer, not loudly, not dramatically. It is a familiar set of words, spoken so often they no longer require conscious thought. A request for steadiness of hand, clarity of sight, and patience of mind. He does not ask to cure all illness. He knows better. Some conditions yield. Others do not. His task is to act correctly within the order of things. Outside, the sky has shifted from deep blue to pale gold. The sun's edge appears briefly, then steadily, as if lifting itself from behind the desert sands. Its light touches the tops of palm trees, then the river, then the mud brick walls of the settlement. The village is small, but busy in a quiet way. Women grind grain. Children carry water jars with practiced care. Fishermen prepare their nets. Life moves forward, repeating patterns older than memory. Hori steps into this world without drawing attention. Many recognize him, of course. Some nod respectfully. Others simply continue their work, comforted by his presence without needing to acknowledge it directly. He walks toward a low building near the edge of the settlement. It is not grand. There are no columns, no towering statues. But inside, it holds what few places do, order applied to suffering. This is where Hori keeps his tools. Inside, the air is dim and cool. Light filters in through a narrow opening, illuminating shelves carved into the walls. On them rest jars sealed with resin, bundles of dried herbs tied with fiber, smooth stones used for grinding, small blades carefully cleaned and stored. Hori moves through the space with familiarity. He does not rush. He checks each item, not because he expects something to be missing, but because attention itself is a form of discipline. He prepares a small mixture first. Nothing urgent, just a simple infusion of herbs commonly used for stomach discomfort. He grinds slowly, listening to the soft sound of stone against stone. The scent rises gently, earthy and bitter. As he works, his mind drifts, not to worries, not to plans, but to observation. He recalls yesterday's patients. A man with a persistent cough. A child with a fever that had eased by nightfall. An elderly woman whose joints ache more when the river level drops. These patterns matter. Not individually, but collectively. Medicine, as Hori understands it, is not about isolated miracles. It is about long watching. Soon, the first patient arrives. She is a young woman, accompanied by her sister. They sit quietly, waiting. Hori does not immediately ask what troubles them. Instead, he observes. The way the woman holds her shoulders. The slight tension around her eyes. The careful way she lowers herself to sit. When he does speak, his voice is low and steady. He asks simple questions. How long the pain has been present. Whether it worsens at certain times of day. Whether sleep brings relief. He listens more than he speaks. There is no rush. No sense of urgency. Even discomfort is given space. Hori examines her carefully, touching gently, watching her expression. He notes warmth, stiffness, subtle imbalance. He prepares a remedy, not exotic, not rare. A poultice of known ingredients, applied with instructions that emphasize patience. Healing, he explains, is often gradual. The body needs time to remember its own balance. The woman thanks him quietly. Her sister does as well. They leave, not cured, but reassured. This matters more than certainty. As the morning progresses, others come and go. Minor injuries. Lingering pains. Questions about diet, sleep, rest. Hori treats each with the same measured attention. By midday, the heat has grown heavier. The light outside sharpens. Activity slows naturally, as it always does. People retreat into shade. Work pauses where it can. Hori steps outside and sits near the doorway, letting the breeze from the river pass over him. He drinks water slowly. He eats a small portion of bread and dates, not to fullness, but to sufficiency. He watches the river. The Nile moves as it always has, indifferent to individual lives, yet essential to all of them. Its rhythm defines the calendar, the crops, the survival of the land. To practice medicine here is to accept that some forces cannot be altered, only respected. In the afternoon, Hori prepares for a visit beyond the village. An older man lives farther out, closer to the fields. His condition is not urgent, but persistent. Hori gathers what he will need, nothing excessive, and begins the walk. The path is familiar. He has walked it many times. The sun beats down, but he adjusts his pace. There is no benefit in arriving tired. When he reaches the man's home, he is greeted calmly. They speak briefly. The examination is unhurried. Hori notices small changes since his last visit. Some improvement. Some stagnation. He adjusts the treatment slightly, explaining the reasoning in simple terms. Before leaving, Hori pauses, looking out over the fields. Workers move slowly among the crops. Birds rise and settle again. Everything continues. The return journey is quiet. By the time Hori reaches the village again, the sun has begun its descent. Shadows lengthen. The air softens. There are no more patients waiting. He cleans his tools carefully. He seals jars. He returns items to their places. Order restored, not because disorder is dangerous, but because order is calming. As evening approaches, the settlement settles into itself. Cooking fires light. Voices lower. The day's heat fades gradually, reluctantly. Hori returns home. He eats a simple meal. He washes again. He sits briefly, listening to the familiar sounds of night approaching, the river, insects, distant voices. Before lying down, he reflects, not dramatically, not emotionally, but methodically. What went well? What could be adjusted? Which remedies should be replenished? Then he lies back on his mat. The stars appear one by one outside. The same stars his teacher saw. The same stars future healers will see. Hori closes his eyes. Tomorrow will be much the same. And that is exactly as it should be. The night passes without incident. It always does. There are no sudden awakenings, no troubling dreams that linger in the mind. Hori sleeps as a man sleeps who has lived long enough to trust routine. His body knows the rhythm of the day. His thoughts loosen their grip as darkness settles fully over the village. When he wakes again, it is not because of sound, but because the world has shifted toward light. The air is cooler than it will be later. The sky is pale, still undecided about color. For a moment, Hori remains still, allowing his thoughts to arrive slowly, one by one, like boats drifting toward the riverbank. Today will be different from yesterday, though only slightly. Today, he will walk to the temple. The temple is not far, but it exists in a different kind of space. It is quieter than the village, yet heavier with meaning. It is a place where healing is not only practiced, but explained, where remedies are justified not just by observation, but by tradition and divine order. After washing and dressing, Hori steps outside once more. The village is beginning its morning movement again. He greets no one directly, and no one stops him. His destination is understood. The path toward the temple runs alongside a stretch of cultivated land before turning toward stone. The ground becomes firmer underfoot. The walls rise gradually, not suddenly, giving the impression that the structure has always been there, growing upward slowly over centuries. The entrance is wide, but not inviting. It is not meant to be. The temple does not welcome in the way a home does. It permits. Hori enters with measured steps. Inside, the temperature drops. The light dims. Stone columns frame the space, their surfaces worn smooth by hands that have passed over them again and again. The air smells faintly of incense and dust, of oil and age. This is where knowledge lives when it is no longer questioned. Hori is not a priest, but he is permitted here. His work overlaps with theirs. The boundary between medicine and ritual is not sharply drawn. It never has been. He moves toward a smaller chamber, one used for study rather than ceremony. Here, scrolls are kept. Papyrus sheets, copied carefully from older sources, their margins filled with notes made by hands now gone. A scribe is already present, seated cross-legged near a low table. He looks up briefly and nods. No greeting is spoken. Speech is unnecessary. Hori sits. In front of him lies a medical papyrus, unrolled partway. The writing is familiar. He has read these words many times. Remedies for wounds. Instructions for treating fractures. Lists of symptoms, categorized not by disease as a modern mind might expect, but by location, head, chest, limbs, and by visible signs. He reads slowly. Not because the text is difficult, but because speed would be disrespectful. Each line carries the weight of countless repetitions. These remedies have been tried, adjusted, copied, trusted. They are not perfect. They are simply what remains. One passage describes an examination of the head. It instructs the physician to observe the eyes, the speech, the balance of the patient. To determine whether an injury is one with which I will contend, one with which I will fight, or one which cannot be treated. Hori pauses at this. He has always appreciated this honesty. Not all conditions are framed as conquerable. Some are acknowledged as beyond intervention. There is no shame in this. Only clarity. A younger physician enters quietly and sits nearby. He watches Hori, though subtly, careful not to interrupt. Learning happens like this. By proximity, by repetition, by silence. After some time, Hori rolls the papyrus back into place. He does not need to read further. The words are already part of him. He stands and moves toward another chamber, one used not for reading, but for practice. Here, patients sometimes arrive seeking temple-based healing. Some believe that the presence of the gods will strengthen the remedy. Others come because they trust the authority of stone and ritual more than the quiet confidence of a village healer. Hori does not resent this. A man waits inside, seated on a bench of cool stone. His posture is stiff. His breathing shallow. He looks relieved when Hori approaches, though he says nothing. Hori examines him as he would anywhere else. He asks questions. He observes. He touches gently. The setting does not change the method. What changes is the explanation. Here, Hori speaks of balance not only within the body, but between the body and the divine order. He frames the remedy as both physical and symbolic. An ointment applied with care. A prayer spoken at a specific time. Rest taken not as weakness, but as alignment. The man listens carefully. He believes. This belief will help. Not because it is magical, but because the mind, when calm, allows the body to proceed without resistance. After the patient leaves, Hori remains for a while. He speaks with another healer, older than himself, whose hair is completely white. Their conversation is slow, unstructured. They discuss the flood levels. The quality of herbs this season. A change in the way certain fevers have presented. These conversations are never written down. They exist only in memory and habit. Eventually, Hori departs. The walk back is unhurried. The sun is higher now, but clouds soften its intensity. The fields are active again. Life resumes its steady pace. Back in the village, Hori finds no crowd waiting. This is expected. Most ailments wait until afternoon. He spends the time preparing. He sorts dried plants. He discards anything that has lost its scent. He replenishes mixtures. He cleans again, though everything is already clean. Preparation is calming. Repetition is grounding. In the late afternoon, a child is brought to him. The child is quiet, unusually so. Hori kneels to the child's level, speaking softly. He does not ask the mother to explain immediately. He watches the child breathe. The diagnosis is careful. A fever, mild but lingering. Nothing alarming. Hori prepares a simple treatment and explains how to keep the child cool, shaded, hydrated. The mother listens intently. She asks few questions. Trust fills the spaces between words. As evening approaches, Hori's work slows naturally. He sits outside again, watching the light change. The river reflects the sky, turning gold, then deeper blue. The air carries the scent of cooking fires and damp earth. He thinks briefly of the future, not in terms of legacy, but continuity. Someone else will take his place. Someone else will read the papyrus. Someone else will grind the same herbs, ask the same questions, give the same measured answers. This knowledge does not belong to him. He is only a steward. Night arrives without ceremony. Hori returns home. He eats lightly. He listens. He lies down. As sleep approaches, his thoughts drift not to miracles, but to systems. To balance. To the quiet effectiveness of small, repeated actions. The temple will still stand tomorrow. The river will still flow. The body will still seek its own equilibrium. And he, if permitted, will continue to observe. Morning returns without urgency. The sky lightens gradually, as if the night itself is reluctant to leave. A thin breeze passes through the village, lifting dust gently from the ground before letting it settle again. Hori wakes as he always does, not to an alarm or a call, but to the quiet certainty that another day has begun. His body feels slightly heavier today. Not with pain, exactly, but with awareness. He notices it without judgment. Awareness is useful. It tells him when to slow his steps, when to rest his hands, when to allow silence to do some of the work. After washing, he steps outside and stands for a moment, facing the east. The sun has not yet cleared the horizon. The air holds a brief softness that will soon vanish. Today will involve tools. This is not something Hori decides lightly. He does not seek situations that require cutting, probing, or force. Most ailments resolve without such intervention, given time and care. But sometimes the body requires assistance that goes beyond herbs and rest. Inside his workspace, Hori opens a small wooden chest. It is plain, unmarked. Inside lie his instruments. They are few. A blade, thin and carefully sharpened. A probe made of bronze. Linen strips folded neatly. Small wooden splints. Stones smooth from years of handling. Each item has a place. Each place is remembered. He examines the blade closely, running his thumb near, but never along, the edge. Clean. Proper. Ready. Before the heat grows strong, a man arrives, supported by another. There has been an accident in the fields. A fall. A sharp edge. Blood has already dried on the cloth wrapped around the arm. Hori does not hurry, but he does not delay. He helps the man sit. He unwraps the cloth slowly, allowing the injured person time to adjust. He observes the wound carefully. Depth. These details matter more than the amount of blood already lost. The cut is deep, but manageable. Hori cleans the area with water mixed with an herbal infusion. The man clenches his jaw but remains still. Pain is expected. Panic is not. Hori speaks softly, not to distract, but to maintain rhythm. He explains what he is doing, not in detail, but enough to keep the patient grounded. The blade is used only briefly. A precise movement. Nothing more. Linen is applied. Pressure is firm but not excessive. The bleeding slows, then stops. Hori wraps the arm carefully, ensuring circulation is not restricted. He gives instructions: rest, cleanliness, observation. He does not promise anything. He never does. The man thanks him, his voice quiet. He leaves supported, but steadier. Hori cleans his instruments immediately. No exceptions. Blood is washed away. The blade is dried and returned to its place. There is no sense of accomplishment. Only completion. Later in the day, a different case presents itself. An older laborer, limping badly, is brought by his sons. The injury is not new. It has worsened over time. Hori examines the leg, feeling along the bone, watching the man's expression carefully. There is a fracture. Poorly healed. Hori knows what this means. The bone has set incorrectly. There are limits now. He explains this calmly. He does not assign blame. Time does what it does. He adjusts what can be adjusted. A support to reduce strain. Advice on movement. Suggestions for pain relief. The sons listen in silence. They understand. Acceptance settles over them slowly, but steadily. This, too, is medicine. As the sun climbs higher, Hori's hands grow tired. He notices the slight tremor that comes after repeated fine movements. He stops. Rest is not weakness. It is accuracy delayed. He sits outside, letting his hands rest on his knees. He watches dust drift in the air. He listens to the distant sound of work continuing without him. He thinks briefly about pain. Pain, he knows, is not an enemy. It is information. It tells the body to pause, to protect, to adapt. His task is not to erase pain completely, but to ensure it does not overwhelm understanding. In the afternoon, he tends to smaller matters. Splinters. Burns. Swollen joints. Each one receives the same attention as the morning's injury. As the day fades, Hori feels the familiar sense of closure. Tools cleaned. Supplies checked. No loose ends. He walks home as the light softens. At home, he washes thoroughly. He sits quietly for a long time before eating. He lets the day settle. Before sleep, he reflects, not on success or failure, but on limits. Where intervention helped. Where it could not. Where patience must replace action. He lies down. The night receives him without comment. Tomorrow, the work will continue, not because it is endless, but because balance must be maintained. The night moves gently over the village, leaving no sharp edges behind it. Stars fade slowly as morning approaches. The air cools, then shifts, carrying with it the soft scent of damp earth and river reeds. Hori sleeps without disturbance, his breathing steady, his thoughts untangled. When he wakes, there is no urgency in his body. Only awareness. Today will not involve blades. Today will involve words. After his morning washing and simple meal, Hori prepares differently. He selects herbs not for poultices or infusions, but for scent. He wraps small bundles carefully, tying them with fiber. He places a narrow strip of papyrus into his satchel, its surface marked with symbols copied many times before. He does not consider this unusual. In his world, medicine and spoken tradition do not exist in opposition. They exist side by side, each supporting the other where it can. His first patient arrives early. A woman sits quietly, her hands folded in her lap. She speaks slowly, choosing her words with care. Her trouble is not visible. There is no wound, no swelling, no fever. What troubles her lives beneath the surface? She does not sleep well. Hori listens. He does not interrupt. He does not hurry her. He notices how she pauses, how her breathing changes when she mentions certain moments of the night. He asks gentle questions. When does the waking happen? What thoughts come with it? Does her heart feel fast or heavy? There is no single remedy for this. Hori prepares a mild drink, calming rather than strong. He instructs her in its use, but he knows this alone will not be enough. He speaks quietly. He explains that the mind, like the body, can lose balance. That worry gathers when it is not given space to leave. That the night, when silence is deep, often reveals what the day hides. He offers her words to repeat before sleep. Not as a command, not as magic, but as rhythm. Familiar sounds spoken softly can guide the mind away from restless loops. She listens. She nods. Her shoulders ease slightly. Belief begins here, not in mystery, but in reassurance. Later, a mother brings a child who cries often, especially at night. No illness can be found. The child's body is healthy. Still, the crying persists. Hori understands this as well. He lights a small bundle of herbs, letting the smoke rise gently. The scent is mild, comforting. He does not claim it drives away spirits. He does not need to. He speaks to the child calmly, his voice steady and low. He instructs the mother to keep the sleeping space consistent, quiet, predictable. A phrase to repeat. A scent to associate with rest. A time of day to pause. He does not dismiss belief. He understands it. Belief shapes expectation. Expectation shapes response. Response shapes healing. In the afternoon, Hori visits the temple again, not to study, but to observe. A priest recites a healing spell for a gathered few. The words are ancient. Their rhythm familiar. The tone calm and even. There is no urgency here either. Hori listens, not critically, but attentively. He recognizes the value of the moment. People leave feeling lighter, not because something unseen has been removed, but because something internal has been reordered. On the walk back, Hori thinks about language. Words can calm breathing. They can slow the heart. They can reassure where hands cannot reach. This is not illusion. It is response. By evening, his voice feels slightly tired. He rests it. Silence is also part of treatment. At home, he sits quietly, allowing the day to settle. He reflects briefly on the many ways people seek relief, not just from pain, but from uncertainty. He lies down as the night returns. His last thought before sleep is simple. Balance is not achieved through force. It is invited. Night arrives softly, without declaration. The village does not resist it. Lamps are lit one by one. Voices lower. Movements slow. The heat of the day releases its grip, and the air becomes gentle again, as if the land itself is preparing to rest. Hori sits outside his home for a long while before sleeping. He does this often. The night, he knows, is not merely the absence of day. It is a state of being. A condition in which the body repairs itself, and the mind sorts what the waking hours have scattered. Sleep is not passive. It is work of a quieter kind. When Hori finally lies down, his breathing slows naturally. He does not try to sleep. He allows it. There is a difference. In the darkness, dreams begin their slow movement. He dreams not of symbols or gods, but of water moving steadily between banks. Of hands repeating familiar motions. Of voices speaking softly, without urgency. He wakes before dawn, as he often does, feeling rested rather than alert. This, he believes, is the proper result of sleep, not energy, but steadiness. Today, several will come to him not with injuries or illness, but with dreams. Dreams matter in this world. Not because they predict the future, but because they reveal the state of the inner balance. Dreams are considered messages, sometimes divine, sometimes personal, often misunderstood. The first visitor arrives in the early morning. An older man, hesitant, respectful. He speaks slowly, as if unsure whether his concern deserves attention. He describes a recurring dream, walking endlessly through a field that never changes, waking each time feeling heavy and uncertain. Hori listens. He does not rush to interpret. He asks about the man's waking life. His work. His rest. His worries. Patterns emerge naturally, without force. The dream, Hori explains, reflects stagnation, not danger. A sign that the body and mind are waiting for change that has not yet arrived. He suggests adjustments. Small ones. A different walking path. A new task. A deliberate pause during the day. The man leaves calmer than he arrived. Later, a young woman speaks of dreams filled with noise and confusion. Voices overlapping. Movement without direction. Hori recognizes this too. He asks about her evenings. She speaks of long days, crowded spaces, little quiet. He advises silence before sleep. Dim light. Repetition. Familiar words spoken gently. He offers no grand explanation. Only guidance. Throughout the day, Hori treats sleep as he treats the body, with respect. He explains to each that sleep is when healing finishes its work. That remedies taken during the day depend on rest at night to succeed. A fever left without sleep lingers longer. Pain unaccompanied by rest sharpens. Anxiety without night's release becomes heavier. In the temple, some believe dreams are messages from the gods. Hori does not disagree. But he also knows that dreams respond to care, to routine, to calm. In the afternoon, he prepares a sleeping mixture for an elderly woman whose rest has grown shallow. The herbs are mild, chosen not to overwhelm, but to encourage. He instructs her carefully. Same time each night. Same words. Same posture. Consistency is medicine. As evening approaches, Hori's own body signals its readiness to slow. His movements soften. His voice lowers. He cleans his space thoroughly, knowing that visual order calms the mind as much as physical cleanliness protects the body. When darkness settles fully, Hori eats lightly and sits in silence. He thinks briefly about how many conditions worsen at night, not because night is harmful, but because attention turns inward. This inward turn, when unmanaged, can magnify discomfort. Sleep, when guided gently, returns perspective. He lies down. The stars appear again, familiar and steady. The same constellations that have watched over countless sleepers before him. Hori closes his eyes. His breath evens. Tomorrow will bring more questions, more quiet concerns, more opportunities to restore balance. For now, the night holds him. And it heals. The village awakens slowly, as it has done for countless generations. Sunlight creeps over mud brick walls, turning their surfaces warm and muted. Shadows stretch long, then shrink, moving with the steady, unhurried rhythm of the day. Hori rises, not with energy, but with awareness. His body reminds him that it carries years now, but he does not resist them. Age, like the river, flows steadily, shaping what it touches. He begins the morning as always, washing, arranging his simple linen, checking his tools. But today his eyes linger longer on small details. The texture of the papyrus, the scent of dried herbs, the soft warmth of sunlight against the skin. Appreciation of the ordinary is part of practice. Today, he knows, he will encounter reminders of mortality. A man comes, middle-aged, his body tired from labor in the fields. There is no injury, only the accumulation of time and work. Hori examines him carefully, noting stiffness in the joints, slight swelling, subtle changes in posture. He offers remedies and guidance, but he does not promise renewal. There is wisdom in understanding limits. Later, an elderly woman arrives. Her breathing is shallow, her movements slow. She asks for advice regarding aches that will not ease. Hori examines her calmly, applies gentle treatments, but he also speaks of patience, rest, and acceptance. Death, he explains softly, is not to be feared when one has lived with balance. His words are never dramatic. They carry no weight of doom, only the quiet authority of understanding. In this way, he practices not only medicine, but the care of the mind. For many, fear is heavier than pain, and understanding provides relief beyond herbs or poultices. By midday, Hori steps outside, resting in the shade of a palm. The river flows steadily, unchanged by his presence or absence. He watches children play, workers tend crops, birds drift lazily over the water. Life continues, uninterrupted, steady in its rhythms. He thinks about the people he has treated over decades. Some have healed fully. Some have persisted with discomfort. Some have left this world quietly, as all must eventually. Each departure, each life, each illness, has been observed with care, without rush, without drama. In the afternoon, he prepares for another patient, a young man with a minor injury from a fall. The treatment is simple, the process calm. Hori moves deliberately, aware of each motion, each touch. The simplicity of action is its own kind of mastery. As evening falls, the village quiets. Lamps are lit. Fires smoke gently. Conversations lower in tone. Shadows lengthen and blend with the darkening earth. Hori returns home, tending his tools one final time, cleaning and arranging as if the day itself were a patient to be put to rest. He eats a modest meal, mindful of its simplicity. He sits quietly for a long while, listening to distant voices and the soft rhythm of the river. The air cools. Night deepens. Before lying down, Hori reflects. His life has been measured by small acts, observing carefully, speaking softly, applying remedies patiently, offering reassurance. These acts, repeated steadily, have formed the essence of his practice and the measure of his days. He lies down on his reed mat. The stars appear slowly, one by one. They shine without haste, eternal witnesses to the quiet passage of time. Hori closes his eyes. His breathing slows. The rhythm of life, like the river, continues gently. And in that stillness, he rests, as all must, accepting the balance of living and the inevitability of leaving. The world, as always, flows onward. And so ends the day, and the life observed in its quiet, measured form.